Okay, so Holly's back for her third day in a row. She lives in Seattle, and we're going to talk about energy work today.
Right, hi. Well, first of all, I just wanted to ask if you guys practice any energy work, if how much you know about it. Is this a brand new topic?
I don't practice anything. Hi, Alba. Uh, um, but like I'm interested in it. I don't like I've had Reiki before, but that's pretty much the extent of it. Besides like the normal like cross energy from massage and stuff, but
Yeah. Yeah, well, actually, massage is where I first got into energy work. At my school, we did an exercise where we would pair off, and this would be a good exercise if you're living with anyone right now. You could try this. It's really interesting. Um, Spend about 1 minute thinking of something that makes you really happy, a really positive thought, and then put your hands on someone, just rest them for like 10 seconds, and then think about something more negative, like sad or that you're frustrated by. Do the same thing without telling them which was which, and see if they can tell which, and just ask them which one felt better. And it's really interesting. We did that in school, and pretty much everyone said they felt better after the positive thoughts, but they didn't know, which time was which, or they didn't even know exactly what we were doing for the exercise. And that got me thinking about energy work in a little different way. So it was just kind of amazing how you can tell how someone's feeling without them verbally saying anything, or even making facial expressions, but you can feel it through the hands. And then I met in massage school a Reiki master, and she gave me a massage, and I felt just like so energized and creative. And I went back to school the next day. I was like, what did you do? And she's like, oh, I'm a Reiki master. And I was like, I got to learn how to do that. So I studied with her. And so Reiki was kind of my introduction to energy work. But I just wrote down a few things about the basics, like what is energy work in the first place. And it's just a kind of
I'm gonna block everybody so that you can talk, and if we have any background stuff, and then I'll let you, or not block, mute people so that then I can
oh.
whoops, let you I muted myself and kept talking. let you ask us if we have questions afterwards.
Sure. Um, so energy work is a healing technique that is designed to bring balance to your body, to your mind, to your spirit, and it's often done through the palms of the hands. Not always, though. You can also use crystals and different tools like rattling and drumming. But I would say the most common is through the palms, like that exercise I was telling you guys about earlier. So pretty much everything is just energy. It's made up of energy, and that's why if you walk into a room where there's a lot of negative energy, you can, I'm sure you've all had that experience at some point where you just feel like the vibes, or you just feel like, oh, what's going on in here, before anyone says anything. Um, and that's because you're picking up on the energy of people. Or if you walk into a room where you don't know, like, imagine someone's in the room and you walk in not expecting someone to be, and you get just that feeling like someone's there before you see a person. Like, usually you can't be in the same room as a person without just, feeling their energy. And so this is all um different ways that I think everyone can um, be sensitive to it. And then the more you focus on it, like a lot of it is through meditation, like we talked about a couple of days ago, then the more details you can pick up about someone's energy. But I think all of us can pick up on those bigger and like really, really strong energy. And it's like, with like body work. The first time I massaged someone, I couldn't feel like where a muscle started or ended. It just felt like a mass of something, like you could feel the muscle. And then the more you practice, you're like, you know exactly where something begins, where it ends, if there's a tiny knot in the muscle or a big one. Whereas the first time I massaged someone, I couldn't feel any of that. And energy work is basically the same. Like we can all feel the really strong big energy, and then the more you get into it, you'll be able to feel kind of the more subtle energy of somebody. And so if you've ever done Tai Chi, it's the Chi in Tai Chi, and in yoga it's called prana. Or Qigong, there's Qi again, Reiki, the Ki in the Reiki means energy. So there's a lot of different systems, a lot of different spiritual practices. And I just made a list of a few of the benefits of energy work. So first of all, it shifts how you feel. Energy work can remove energy blocks that prevent your energy from flowing freely. It can release emotional trauma, remove ancestral patterns and programming, clears negative energy, restores energy and personal power. And it can bring fractured pieces together, especially in shamanic energy work. There's the belief that every time we have a trauma, or not every time, but if we have a trauma so severe that we just can't handle it at that time, a piece of our spirit or our soul will seal it off so that we don't experience all the emotion of what happened, or we don't experience the trauma. We kind of wall that off, and that can happen several times through someone's life. And so energy work, in shamanic healing, it would be called a soul retrieval, where you would go in and collect all those pieces that had been walled off and bring them back to make the person whole again in their spirit. And then, of course, physical healing. So Reiki is good, or energy healing is good for, like joint pain, even a cold, anything like that, anything physical that's bothering you, then energy work can help with. And so I practice a few, like I mentioned, I practice Reiki. So I'm only going to really speak to the techniques that I personally know, but there's a lot more out there. And if you're interested in learning more, I would say just see which ones come into your path, which ones you're drawn toward. Like for me, it was meeting this Reiki master that got me in that direction. So Reiki, the first one, and this Reiki is a kind of energy where you're channeling and healing energy from the universe. So it's not energy coming from me. If I'm doing Reiki on someone, it's channeling kind of a divine energy. So the Ra in Reiki is God's wisdom, and then the Ki is energy. So you're attuned by a Reiki master to channel that energy and use it for healing purposes. So that's more channeling. You can also just use your own energy to help people, or even help yourself. Like I always tell my clients, even if you're not attuned to Reiki, just placing the palms of your hand on the area that needs healing. We all have that healing energy vibrating through us. And if you set that intention toward healing, you can, let's say your shoulder hurts while you're watching TV. If you don't have to be meditating or focused on it. You can just place it there, and the energy will, the healing energy will go through your hand to that area. Then if you're channeled, or if you're attuned to Reiki, then there's specific kind of spirits and helpers and specific symbols and hand movements that you can learn to go a little bit deeper. But anyone can use the palms of their hands and the energy there to place on themselves or on others. Like in a lot of Christian churches, that you hear about laying hands on to healing, and it's basically talking about just that same practice. And then Tai Chi I practice a little bit of. In fact, if you guys want to after this, I'm leading a yoga class over on my Facebook and my Instagram. I'm going to stream a class, and it's going to be a fusion of yoga and Tai Chi. So we'll be talking a little bit more about energy work tonight. And Tai Chi is just meant to balance energy in the body, and Tai Chi uses breath, meditation, and kind of repetitive movement for healing energy and to get your energy to flow, to remove blockages. And then I am also trained in shamanic healing ceremonies. And with shamanic ceremonies, it's very common to use different tools like crystals. I use a lot of crystals for that. We use rattles and drums are the main symbols for Reiki, but you can, or healing tools with Reiki. You also can use sage and cards and different things like that. Those are the three that I tend to use the most, though. And shamanic healing is like what I was talking about with the soul retrieval and finding the pieces that have been kind of sealed or encapsulated at a specific time of a trauma and bringing that back. You can also remove negative energy blocks, any spirits that are kind of hitchhiking onto someone, which could be a person that has passed that's hitchhiking onto someone. It could also be just a spirit that isn't human, and it can also just be inanimate, just a block that's not kind of a living spirit. And so, and shamanic ceremonies like Reiki, I wouldn't say as much you're channeling a spirit, but you develop a relationship with different spirits, and you call them into each ceremony, and then they're really the ones that are doing the work, and the shaman is just calling them in and overseeing what's going on, and then creating a start and a finish to the ceremony. So you can use that to do chakra or elemental balancing, and that I used Reiki a little bit for that, as well as some things I learned in school for shamanic healing, and that's feeling where in the body there's a low energy. So if your heart chakra is low, it's identifying that and then bringing that energy so it's into balance with like your solar plexus, navel chakra, or in shamanic terms, it's usually talked about in elements like earth, water, fire, and air, and making sure that those are all in balance, so that you can be at your full energy and your full power. So that's just really the basics of what I personally know. Those are the types of energy healing that I do. Do you guys have any questions?
Mute. I'm gonna unmute all you guys now so that we can all. Oh, there we go. And if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and ask her. Which, I didn't know that there were so many different ways of or things that go along with Reiki. Reiki. I don't know how you pronounce it. Is it Reiki?
Reiki, like
Reiki,
a ray of
okay.
sunshine.
Like I've had it done before, but I think what she was doing was more the chakra balancing and stuff like that, which I had felt like it felt like something was pulling out of my head, and like just spots in my body were warm, and like that was really cool. But I guess I didn't know. I thought it was all dealing with chakras. I didn't know that there was like the the shamanic with the earth, wind, fire, all that, and water.
Yeah, and they are kind of two separate things. Where the Reiki comes from Japan, shamanic healing is more from the West, like North and South America. But especially I think Peru is the epicenter of where shamanic ceremonies come from. But Native American healing techniques are very similar to like the Mayan and the shamanic. So they are a little bit different. They kind of you're connected to different types of spirits, and Reiki is a little. Sorry, my cat is coughing. I want to make sure he's okay. He's been feeling sick lately, so I'm just trying to keep an eye on him. And that's speaking of pets. You can do all these types of energy works. Especially Reiki is great for animals. So I sometimes will definitely on my pets, and then occasionally I'll help a friend's pet that has if they're sick or they've hurt themselves. So it works on pretty much any living being.
Nice. Yeah, I massage my dog all the time. She's almost 15, and like every time I walk her, I massage her, and sometimes she'll just come up and like, put her head under my hand, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, you want a massage?" And she
Oh,
used to jump up on my lap, and then she would just kind of hunch over to get each spot and then lay on her back so I can do her belly. And now she just kind of like stands there and turns to whatever spot she wants me to work on.
she knows.
And she still loves the massage.
Yeah, I actually just took my first animal massage training course last month before the quarantine, and you kind of, if you know how to massage people, it's not that different. So I've been massaging animals a lot too, and you can tell how soothing it is to them, even to cats, which I wasn't sure if my cats would be still for the massages, but they love it. So it's the same with energy work. And since you're a massage therapist, you I'm sure have already been doing energy work a little bit without knowing it, because your palms are on people. And um, uh, I know one of my massage instructors told us to be careful about what we're thinking when we're working on someone, because that energy, like if um, you're angry at someone or something, or you're thinking sad thoughts, that will get on to your client. So and when I first heard it, I was like, what? That doesn't, they can't tell what I'm thinking. But the more I've been practicing, that was like 12 years ago that they said that. And now the more working with people, I see it. And I'm sure you've had some instances too where either you felt your energy go into a client, or I've also had it the other way where a client comes in and they just have negative energy radiating off of them, and then you just feel kind of ugh afterwards. um, so that and all of that is just energy work.
I feel like I retain their energy a lot. And then I try not to think about other things while I'm in there besides like what I'm trying to fix and help and heal. Um, like I do feel like there's some people that are always, always negative, and then I just kind of feel really drained after that
Yeah.
session. But I had one day where I had every single bubbly person that I like had on my client list, I swear, all on the same day. And I come home and my husband's like, I'm like, hey babe, and he's like, what is wrong with you? He's like, are you okay? Have you been drinking? I'm like, no, I've been at work. I was just like bouncing off the walls, and I attributed that later to like all of the energy of all of these bubbly people that I had all day long. But like I felt awesome, and I was just kind of like 100 miles a minute when I got home.
Yeah, and see, so that's it. We all are kind of already doing different types of energy work, or at least being affected by it, even if we don't have a specific name for it. But that's how we kind of start to relate to energy. And just going back to animals, you probably, if you're close to animals, they have pretty good judge of character. I've noticed with my pets, they do not like, when they don't like someone, I take it really seriously, because they're usually right. I found over the years that animals, and I just believe that's their intuition on someone's, or they can feel the energy
Oh, yeah.
of someone else. And they can also um, feel, I think, like I had a surgery a few years ago on my stomach, and um, my cat would just lay like a heat pad on my stomach. Never did it before, really. Then after I was feeling better, didn't do it but for that time when I was healing, they can kind of sense that. I'm sure, like, and I know dogs can I've had dogs do that too, where they go right to the pain point and they just nurture it and love it. And that's energy work too. The animals just do naturally.
Yeah, when I broke my leg, I had a plate and 11 screws put in. So my dog would like jump up on the chair with me and she'd sit her butt like towards my body. And then she would, because it was like down by my ankle, she would just lay her head like really, really gently right on my ankle. I know, I was like, okay, okay. And then she'd just like be really super gentle because she's kind of like jostly and, you know, trips over her own feet sometimes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to hurt me. And then she just kind of just laid right into it and was just really gentle and soft. And I'm like, where is this coming from?
Yeah, they know. They're intuitive little healers, but because you know they're kind of plugged into that. I think we all are actually, and then I think we disconnect ourselves from the energy flow by kind of getting obsessed with things outside of ourselves. So, like we talked about when in the meditation talk, especially now since technology has taken such great leaps, like it's great for this kind of thing. There's lots of good to it, but it also allows us to be constantly externally focused. We never really have to check in with ourselves, with our emotions, our thoughts, how we feel inside of our body. And I'm sure you've all worked with people that are just completely disconnected from their body. Like I've found big knots, different things like that. They had no idea they were there. And it's because you can always be looking at your phone screen, listening to something. You can just always focus outside. And it takes a lot more energy now to turn that focus internal. And that's why I love Tai Chi and yoga and meditation, because it just helps you to to know yourself a little bit better. And that's how we can learn how to live our lives from a place of inner peace. It starts by just knowing yourself, knowing what you're thinking about, what you're feeling, um, how you're feeling in your body. Um, and energy work is all a part of that. So I think all three topics, which I hadn't thought of when I agreed to talk about these three topics, but when I was writing down the benefits of each one, all three of them have like mostly overlapping benefits, which I thought was interesting because I hadn't thought of it quite that way before. But it is kind of that holistic approach, because I don't think you can be a good energy worker if you aren't able to meditate. If your thoughts are very scattered, it's difficult to channel energy. And it's the same with movement, like that functional fitness we were talking about yesterday. It's you have to be in your body, and that's all meditation really is being aware of how you're moving, aware of your form, aware if your core is engaged. So all three of them are a lot more interconnected than I had even thought about before these last 3 days. So thank you. And I'm going to have to hop off pretty soon to teach my yoga class, but you're all welcome to join me if you want to. I'm also going to leave the class up on my Facebook and my Instagram, so you can always go on there later and do the class on your own if you want to learn. We're just going to do some basic Tai Chi moves and then some restorative yoga. So it was really lovely to be here with all of you. Are there any last questions that I missed before I jump off?
I didn't have any questions, but I have experienced Reiki and love having it done. I'm Reiki certified, but I'm also quantum touch certified, and I mostly do a lot of other kind of physical body work, and I just kind of incorporate it in my clients. And one thing I was going to say was that a good thing to do when you work with your clients is before you begin, have them breathe and ground.
Yes.
And and kind of bubble them and their energy, and I usually breathe with them, and we take a few seconds to just both breathe and ground and It kind of sets the mood for the hour.
Let me grab something. I'll show you how I normally start sessions. I'll put the singing bowl on someone and tell them to breathe and come into their body, and then the vibrations of that pull the person into themselves. And it doesn't have to be this, but it could be anything, just a bell or a rattle, like I showed you earlier, can be very grounding. And everyone's a little bit different with what they respond to. So I just choose the tools that work well for me. And then the more I get to know my client, I kind of see which ones they respond faster to. But yeah, the tools are great. Or I'll sometimes have someone, I'll put this on top of a client or a different stone depending on what's needed, and that weight can be really grounding too, and then along with your hands. So that's a really good point, is really like explaining it to your clients. And one other thing I wanted to say about especially for those of us that work with clients, it's good to have a way to shield yourself. What I do, I'll sometimes just rattle around myself to like brush off any energy that's not mine. You can also visualize like wrapping yourself in a circle of light. And what I always pray for is that nothing that shouldn't get into me will get in, because you don't want to just have a block like a wall, because when you're working with someone, you do want kind of a give and take of energy. You want to be able to see what's going on with them. You want to be able to affect that, whether it's body work or energy work. So I think of it more as a filter rather than like we were talking about with the quarantine, like it's not like a hazmat suit that keeps everything out. It's a filter, and you ask that what needs to be, what I ask, let me see what I should see and not see what I don't need to see, and let those people that should see me, let those clients that I can help come to me, and not the rest. So you could pray for a light around you, a filter. Some of my friends that do massage will imagine like zipping themselves up in a suit before they do a massage. I have another friend that imagines putting like on energetic gloves before touching somebody. So there's whatever visualization I think works best for you. I think it is good though at the start of the day to ground yourself and to pray for that protection. And then at the end of the day, it's good to brush off any energy that might have made its way through that shouldn't be there. And that's how we protect ourselves. Because otherwise, yeah, I've definitely had those days of feeling very drained working with specific clients. And sometimes it's just a sadness. And then some clients that will have just a kind of dark energy. And so it's important to have a system where you can block yourself, and then at the end dust yourself off is how I say it. But if you guys have any other questions, feel free to message me, feel free to add me on Facebook. I'll be doing yoga classes every night at 6:30, so you're welcome to drop into any of those. And yeah, feel free to message me anytime if you have questions about any of the 3 topics we talked about or yoga. And I hope you all have a beautiful night. Thank you so much for inviting me, Jennifer, to meet all of you beautiful people. And I hope to see you all again soon. Have a beautiful night.
Well,
Thank
for
you.
3 days with us.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming, Alba.
Yeah,
So what is that? What
I
is
was gonna be
actually
here
the
for,
quantum touch?
Previous ones that didn't work. I'm sorry?
I can't hear you. You're kind of bopping in and out.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, what did you say? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just wondering what the quantum touch was. I'm not into like, I haven't really crossed the line into a lot of the energy type work. or the
So
Eastern
quantum
blue?
touch is different from Reiki in that it doesn't do all the symbols and hand positioning. It's mostly working with breath work while doing energy work. So it's a lot easier, like when doing MYK or reflexology or any other, like I do Indian head massage and raindrop therapy and all that. It's easy to incorporate because you can put your hand anywhere and the energy goes to where it needs to go and you breathe through it.
Cool.
And so usually you can get the client too to breathe and relax. And so yeah, just look up quantum touch. Valerie, I'm trying to think of her last name, is a lady in my area that trains people in it. And for me, it's a much simpler form of energy work. I've been Reiki, and I love it, and I love having Reiki done to me. But to complement what I do, Reiki kind of has, I feel like, too much to know and too much. And so it is a lot simpler to go with what I do. I was just going to do an hour-long session of Reiki or quantum touch, and either is fine. But to incorporate it in what I do, the quantum touch is much easier.
All right, it's going to kick us off in 4 minutes and like 25 seconds. So I'm going to stop the recording, but we can kind of talk a little bit until it decides to just stop.